It was just a regular day at Cantonal High School. Silver Spoon was standing by her locker with her friend Diamond Tiara. They were talking about this upcoming weekend. They had plans to go to the movies together. But while they were talking, Silver Spoon noticed one of their classmates, Pipsqueak, walked by, and she looked at him for only a brief second. As she was looking at him, though, she felt something about him. In fact, for the past year, ever since friendship games, she had realized how cute Pipsqueak was. But she never even considered to even tell him that, or even tell anyone else. She had even told Diamond Tiara, who is her best friend of all the entire world. But she was a little bit shy though to mention this. As they were talking, they were just talking about some of the classes they're going to have. The first class that Silver Spoon was going to have was math. And even though that Diamond Tiara was not going to have the class with her, but she was going to have math with Pipsqueak. Even though they weren't sitting at the next same table, but during math class, it happened that Silver Spoon was just looking at him from time to time for only a brief second. Every time she looked at him, she felt her heart was beating a bit faster. She has even at that point he had even realized that she had a crush on Pipsqueak. She only thought that he was cute, but nothing else than that. And after all, she hadn't even considered dating any boys at this point. But she were mostly focused on her studies and spent time with her best friend Diamond Yara, and even go to mall or something like that. But today, things was going to change from a different point of her life because they were even having chemistry class right after, and the teacher, in fact, she, the teacher actually paired made that Silver Spoon and Pete Squeak to be lab partners into the class. Even she was trying to focus on her class, but standing next to the boy that she thought was cute, it was going a little bit be different for her though. But she managed to focus enough on her to complete her subject topic of the class. But even despite after all that, she could still not even believe how cute that Pete Squeak was. And even during lunch break, in the cafeteria, Pete Squeak was sitting by some of his friends, Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and even Rumble. They were all talking about something, well, and even though that Silver Spoon was talking with Dami and Tiara, they were just talking about some fashion and some of their plans for the movies until this weekend. After school was over, though, Silver Spoon was picking up by her parents. Even at home, she couldn't stop thinking about Peepsqueak. Thinking about him made her to realize then that she may had feelings for Peepsqueak. But then she didn't know if she would even tell him or tell anyone, especially her best friend. To at least this point, she decided not to tell Diamond Tiara at the moment. She first believed that maybe these feelings might just fade away over time. And the rest of the week, though, things didn't seem to be fading away from her feelings. Her feelings for towards Pete's Squeak only remained strong, or at least the same. It didn't seem to be any stronger, but during the last class on Friday, when when Silver Spoon looked at Pete's Squeak, right at the same moment, for some unusual way though, he turned around and saw her looking at him, and he smiled, and that made her blush a little bit and just went back to her focus on the class. But that didn't stop that though, because even after class was over, that was the last class for the day. Meanwhile, Brother Pipsqueak was waiting for his mom to pick him up, and even Silver Spoon was also waiting for her mom to pick her up. They were actually just sitting on the same bench, but they didn't speak much. They just said he even probably just asked her if she had a good day at school today, but she said yes, and she asked the same, and he said yes. Damatiora though, she saw them talking, and she went over to Silver Spoon to come over, which she did. She just asked what they were talking about, and Silver Spoon didn't even lie. She told the truth about what they talked about. And Dimetiora, she wasn't even mad because her friend was talking to some other boys at school, though, because they were in fact good friends. But then, on Saturday, something did happen. Ever since that week, Silver Spoon and Dimetiora have been talking about going to the movies together. But unfortunately, something did happen. Dimetiora called Silver Spoon that Saturday noon, telling her that she won't be able to go to the movies with her that weekend. It turned out that she had to go with her parents to a relative in a nearby town for the weekend. Even though despite that Diametra had tried to convince her parents to let her go, maybe that she could stay at Silver Spoon's parents at her place for the weekend. But the parents didn't allow it because they needed to go with her because it turned out that her maternal grandmother was sick, and that it may be the last time they would even see her. So she had to go. Even the Silver Spoon were a little bit down because of that, but Diamond Chora promised they could go to the movies the next weekend, and so they made plans for that though. So during this weekend, since she didn't have any other plans, she decided to leave her house for a couple of hours just to walk around, maybe go to the park or anything like that. Just to relax, maybe just to do something. Rather than just staying at home. And she could just left the house and walked, and suddenly she realized she had walked all the way to the mall without even realizing it. She was in deep thoughts about Pete Squeak. At first, she didn't know exactly what going to happen, but when she saw that she was at the mall, she thought, why not go inside and look around at some of the fashion stores and maybe going to get on a smoothie or something like that. And she actually had a good time. And while she was sitting by the fountain having her smoothie, she heard a voice behind her. She turned around and saw Pete Squeak alone. He walked up to her and asked, what brings her to the mall? He thought maybe that she was going to be at the movies with Dametiora. She explained the reason why that Diamond isn't there and that she had some sort of family emergency, so she was alone. Then Pete Squeak asked her if maybe she wanted to hang out, maybe do something, just to ease some of her boredom. And even though Diamond probably wouldn't be mad if she spent some time with other friends. So Silver Spoon actually said yes, and they went to this arcade that was in the mall. They played some games and they actually had a good time, laughed about something. Even afterwards, they even went to a small cafe to have something to eat. And there, they even talked about something different, like some of the common interests, some of the things that they thought about school. They even talked about their plans on after school, what they wanted to do. Even though that, even if that Silver Spoon were interested in fashion and something like that, but she didn't actually have any particular plans on what to do for afterwards. She really hadn't really decided for what to do wanted to do after school. Even that her parents were wealthy enough, but she didn't have to perhaps even consider being need of work. But she wanted to do that because despite her family was wealthy, but she wanted to compute her. She wanted being able to provide for some things herself for once. So, and even though Pipsqueak said he actually had some plans for that also. Even though his family wasn't even wealthy enough, but they, he wanted to be able to provide himself and maybe one day to be support his family if they need any financial help. And in fact, he was actually helping at Sugar Cup Cafe with some of the baking with Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie worked there for a part-time job in that he had actually had asked Pinkie if there was any chance for him to be there for maybe as only as a part-time job to be learning about baking and something like that. He wanted to learn more about. He was considered maybe a baker when he was older, and Pinkie was actually very happy for his decision. But she couldn't even promise at first because she needed to ask the Cake family's parents though, and they actually approved. And from time to time, he actually went there to work. And Silver Spoon was actually a little bit surprised that he actually had a part-time job, but she was still very not sure what she wanted to do. But then he said, "What about maybe work at this mall? Because there are in fact some fashion stores, and who knows, maybe one day in the future they may need hire some people." And she thought maybe that could happen though. But they actually had a good time afterwards. After that, they actually left the mall together. And as a true gentleman as Peepscake were, he actually went with Silver Spoon home to make sure that she came home, even though it was only like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. But she didn't find that. She even asked him if he wanted to come inside, maybe to watch a movie or something like that. And he said, maybe next time. He had to do sometimes some things at home. So he said, thanks for the day, and then he walked apart. But before then, he was even has even stepped away from the house. He then turned around and asked Silver Spoon something. He even asked her if she maybe wanted to go out with him on a date, maybe on Friday next week. She was really surprised of that, that he even asked her that. But all that she could say was yes. She only said yes, and that he smiled, and he left. When she came inside, she realized that Pipsqueak actually had asked her out on a date, unless that even aware about it. But she wanted to tell Diamond Tiara about it. So she went to her room, texted her friend, and she just told her that she had a good time with her Pipsqueak. They were at the mall, just hanging out, or arcades and like that. And then she mentioned that he had asked her out. She was a little bit afraid that the reaction from Diamond Tiara. But the reaction from Diamond Tiara was in fact very positive. She was really happy to friend that she may have found a boyfriend. But at least from that though. So but the next Friday they actually went to the movies together for the first date. They actually decided to pick a comedy movie. Even this, but despite that this was the very first date they ever had, but Pete Squeak actually had a great time. And when he asked Silver Spoon if she had a good time, and she said yes. And in fact, after he took her home, she gave him his first official kiss. And from that day on, they had been dating. They often went to the picnic at a park or having a movie night either his place or at her place, or even went to the mall to went to some playing some arcade games and or even went to movies. They both actually had such a great time, and especially when the school having their annual winter dance, Pipsqueak actually had asked her if she wanted to be his date for the dance, which she said yes, and they were agreed to meet at the dance rather than being her picked her up. When he came there, saw her, and seeing her in this light blue dress, it made his heart just almost like he giving a heart attack. He even mentioned how beautiful she was, and she smiled and blushed and said that he looked very handsome in his suit. And even at the school dance, all their friends could even see how happy they were together. And by this point, all their friends at school were aware about them to be in a dating. Even Diamond Tiara, where could be standing with someone with Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, could see how happy Silver Spoon were with Peepsqueak. But a lot of things between them were in fact going much better than expected. Even the first time when Peepsqueak was introduced to Silver Spoon's parents, she was a little bit afraid that her parents wouldn't like him because he wasn't belong to a more wealthy family or something like that. But they didn't care about that. As long as their daughter was happy with someone that she really cared about, that was all that that was all that mattered to them. As long as the daughter was happy, they were happy. Even after they finished school several years later, Pipsqueak actually became a full-time worker at Sugar Cube Cafe with thanks to Pinkie Pie. What about Silver Spoon though? Well, she actually did remember that Pipsqueak mentioned to her years earlier, that maybe one day the fashion store at the mall may open a place for her to be able to work. And it actually did happen. They were looking for people to hire as selling people. And she actually went to the store, and she wasn't even hired right away because they wanted to know sure that she know about things about fashion and how to sell clothing. And when she did show her personality, her skills of being teaching like how to be selling and how much she knows about fashion, and the customers loved it. And the owner hired her right away. She was really excited. And even at that same point, Pipsqueak and Silver Spoon actually lived together in a small apartment in town, not so far away from where their homes were. For Pipsqueak, it took maybe as 20 to 25, maybe as 20 minutes by walk. But for Silver Spoon, it took maybe as 20 to 50 minutes by either train, by bus, or by at least by bus. But she didn't have any problem by taking a bus. But then it happened. After they had been dating for at least about 6 to 7 years at this point, at least 7 years, Peepsqueak took with Silver Spoon to a restaurant to celebrate their 7-year anniversary. She was a bit happy to happen that, and both of them were in fact happy to have been lasted for 7 years. But there was some part of this question in that Peepsqueak was in fact nervous. He didn't know if Silver Spoon was going to answer yes or no to this next question. He in fact did propose to Silver Spoon. For a brief moment, he was silent. He was expecting that she may say no or she wasn't ready yet, but when she said yes and started crying, she was really happy that he managed to even bring the question. And in fact, she even had waiting for him to even to perform to even propose to her at some point. She had hoped to not for almost a whole year that he would even was considered to be proposing to her. But as the Diamond Tower had told her that he may not be ready, but you had to wait and to just be patient that he will propose to you. And she was patient enough, and after just another year, on the 7th year's anniversary, he did it. And when he told the families and parents about this, they were really excited. Diametra had been asked to be Silver Spoon's bridesmaid, and even Rumble was asked to be Pipsqueak's best man. They even had a wedding, a small wedding for most close family and close friends invited. And it was a great wedding, though. Despite it was just a small, but they actually did had a good time. And as for the honeymoon, though, Silver Spoon's parents made a very big surprise. They had arranged for them to go into Hawaii for a whole week for the honeymoon. Both Silver Spoon and Pipsqueak were really happy about that. But despite it, they were happy to be married with the one they loved the most. Even after all of this, on their honeymoon, they had this great time. But there were a lot of things in their lives that made this life even better. That were, in fact, their love for each other. Even after this, though, just barely 2 years later after they were married, Silver Spoon announced to both their families and friends they were expecting a baby. They were expecting a daughter. When she told Pipsqueak, he was really excited. He literally fainted once when he was told, but he was still very, very happy. And then, when the daughter was about 4 years old, they actually had another daughter. And after that, and and after all this, they could have been happier with the one they loved the most of all the entire world, Peepsqueak. In his mind, to be with the one he loved the most of the entire world meant a lot to him, especially having two daughters with his beloved wife, Silver Spoon. And Silver Spoon, she was just grateful to have such great man in her life. And this is how Pipsqueak and Silver Spoon, with a true love, got a big family together. The end.